Hi, it's Nicki here and I am back for another Ask an Author, and today I thought I'd talk a little bit about how I approach world building. Now for me, world building I would say has not been a major issue because I've written paranormal and fantasy, but most of those have been set in the current world but just with fantasy paranormal elements around. I've only done a couple of real pure sci-fi fantasy pieces, and even those, I think with maybe one exception, have still had a sort of semblance to our world. So I don't approach this in quite the way someone who writes high fantasy might. I mean, if you're a Tolkien sort of writer, then you need a really heavy background world building before you can even start writing the story. You've got to understand the planets or the world's cultures, their languages, their society makeup. For me, that's not been an issue so far, and I'm not a planner. I'm more of a pantser. I'll have a story idea and I'll just write and see where that story takes me. I won't plot out every individual scene, which probably then ties into how I do my world building. When I do have fantasy elements, say I'm writing an urban fantasy and I set it in London, so I don't need to research the world in terms of what London's like because I know London really well. But I will jot down a few notes. Say I've got vampires and werewolves. What are the rules? You know, different vampire literature has different rules for how the vampires behave. You know, can they go out in the sunlight? Will garlic affect them? So I like to have some notes jotted down for my own rules, just to keep in mind as I'm writing, so I don't have them suddenly afraid of sunlight in one scene but then walking in the park in midday in the next. So for me, world building is just more about keeping facts straight about creatures as opposed to the worlds. So far anyway. Maybe if I do a big epic high fantasy like in the future, then I'll have to do a little bit more, but for now my planning tends to be mythology based, creature based, and technology based as well. I've done a little bit of sort of steampunk-esque historical fiction, so having a bit of an idea in advance about how steam, cogs, whatever it may be, are used in that world, how they're integrated into society. That's the sort of thing I'd be jotting notes. So I don't do a huge massive folder of planning for world building at present, but I do have a few sheets of notes in which I talk about some of these things just to get my ideas straight before I start writing the story, because I don't want to write myself into a corner where I've created all these rules that I then can't resolve to get to the end of the story. But what do you guys think? How do you guys go about world building? If you're an author, tell me how you like to approach it. If you're a reader, how important is the world building to you in the books you read? Do you want huge, major, detailed backgrounds to the worlds, or are you happy with just enough detail to follow the story and keep it moving? Tell me your thoughts, and I'll be back next time with another Ask an Author. Bye for now.